And just about every month is a report from Dr. Stella. Good evening, Dr. Stella, and welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Well, speaking of fire alarms, I want to start by thanking our fire department. This past Saturday, they conducted an outstanding fire prevention day in honor of Eva Block. There were so many learning opportunities for our children, and they helped. There were dozens and dozens and dozens, hundreds of people there, and it benefited the children of Beecher Road School. So it was a wonderful community service, and it brought community together. I'm going to make my report short because we have some student visitors from Beecher Road School with a surprise presentation. My update concerns the summer school. What a wonderful town we live in, of people who cooperate in every way possible. With the support of Amity Superintendent Charles Dumays, the Summer Enrichment, Recreation, Extended Day, and Language Arts programs will be housed at Amity High School. So we thank them for opening their doors to us. Also, our good neighbors at Ezra Academy have opened their doors to our special education program and to our preschool recreation program. So we have a community that works together. We're very, very proud of that. One of our goals at Beecher Road School is to help to create a generation of good local and global citizens. And we do many things to foster that. We have our sister schools in China for global education, our world language program. We had our delegation of principals visiting us. But it's also important to produce to foster good local citizens. And a wonderful step was taken by members of our staff, Kayla Widmeyer and Sandy Simowitz, who stepped forward to be moderators of a newly formed student council. And I'm going to hand it right over to them and the children.
Hi, as you were already told, I'm Sandy Simowitz and Kayla Widmeyer. We're the faculty advisors of the brand new student council at Beecher Road School. The students are handing out a PowerPoint presentation that they actually made up on their own. I'm going to send around a little album that we're starting to put together. Even though we've just started really our activities, we already have a lot of things to share with you. And we thought that the best way to do that sharing would be for the students to talk to you about the student council and its activities themselves. So we're going to turn it over without any further ado to the students.
Hi, I'm Siavash Racy.
And I'm Ben Goldstein.
We are the Beecher Road School Student Council, and thank you for having us here today.
The 6th grade student council is made up of 20 6th grade students and soon to come 12 5th grade students.
So you may ask, what is Student Council? So Student Council is a group of hardworking 6th graders who are trying to improve the school in any means, as in educational or athletic or in any sort of, and we are going to have more 5th graders coming in and eventually 4th graders.
The Student Council involves all students at Beecher Road School, and it tries to bring Beecher together as a whole.
I was very excited to learn about the student council opportunity. I'd always wanted to help my school how best I could, and I realized this was the best opportunity to use my ideas to improve this school. And I realized I could help create a perfect learning environment for the younger generations to come, so that they could get the best out of the school.
Like Veronica, after I heard about student council opportunity, I was very enthused to try out. And once I realized that I was selected, I realized that I had to work hard to make sure that Beecher became the best school it could possibly be.
Beecher Road School did a fundraiser recently to raise money for the food and fuel fund for the town of Woodbridge.
The Eat for Heat Hunt Fund is a fund that we did. We sold pastries and we made a lot of money.
We raised a total of $666, and it's all going to residents of Woodbridge who do not have enough money to purchase heat and food during the winter. So it's all for a good cause, and it was spread out during a 4-day fundraiser. Part of 2 days was in the book fair, and the other 2 were in parent conferences. We sold pastries, as John said, and we sold brownies, cookies, and cake pops.
Hi, I'm Sienna Wang.
I'm Olivia Gross.
We had a Spirit Week, and it was from Monday to Friday. On Monday, we had Green Day since it was St. Patrick's Day. The school participated and wore green.
On Tuesday, we had Sports Team Day. The whole school wore jerseys for their favorite teams.
On Wednesday, it was Red Carpet Wednesday, and each student was allowed to wear to dress up as their favorite actor, actress, or movie character.
On Wednesday, it was Hat Day, and everybody wore a crazy hat or headband.
On Friday, it was Spirit Day, and it closed the whole Spirit Week, and each student wore our school's color, which was blue and yellow.
Spirit Week, we had the idea because it allowed students to dress up, and it made students who would never interact with each other talk to each other, give compliments, and it brought the whole school together.
Student Council also has other events to do in mind. We want to do a sixth grade movie night to raise more money for another foundation to help the community of Woodbridge.
And we also had an idea to do a playground buddy bench, which would allow a couple of 6th grade student council members to sit at a bench during recess or another time of the day and sit with students who are lonely and try to cheer them up.
One last event we want to do is a faculty talent show. We will charge money for tickets and to see what the faculty can do.
These events aren't, we didn't exactly approve them yet with the principal, but we were thinking of them.
We appreciate you listening to us, and thank you for your time.
We hope you learned a lot about the BRS Student Council and the events that are upcoming and the events that we already did.
Any questions?
Which one of you is running for governor next year? Got my vote.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I have to say, I'm sure I speak for all of us, that it was very inspiring for us. I think maybe we're going to try a crazy hat day one time for this Board of Selectmen. But it's very, very impressive what you've done, and this is your first year, which really makes it amazing. Very creative and excellent ideas. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd like to propose a Board of Selectmen talent night. You're invited. I think I might win. I'm out of town that day.
You may not wear the hat.
Right. Oh, of course, of course.
Oh, no.
Hey, do you want us to move? Why don't we all move together? How do you get to be on stage? Let's see.
We have to fill out this packet, and they would go and choose us. There's a couple, there are 2 people from each class who are one of the boys.
Very serious. Congratulations. That's great. It takes a lot to go through. Make sure your face can see our faces. Okay. Wait, is this my good side? Oh, these are mama boxes. All right. Wow. Is this what it's like to be a sixth grader?
Yes.
Wow. My childhood wasn't spent digitally, so I don't know. Right? Yeah.
That was just great.
Thank you all so
Great,
much.
guys. Good job.
Good job.
Good job. Excellent. He said, did we get the refreshments? I didn't say anything. What was I going to do? Say no? Yes. I like the funny hat idea.
Yeah. So as we get back to the agenda, I do want to say I believe that really demonstrated all that Dr. Stella brings to us and everything we hear about Beecher Road School and what the students are doing and their creativity and the great faculty. That was really wonderful. So thank you, Margaret, and thank you to the whole board. The next item on our agenda is a presentation about the CPACE program. Ben Healy and Marlena Harvey from CFIA are here.
You have a funny hat contest?
No, ugly Christmas sweater.
Oh. Thank you. You're welcome.
Because I'll pay attention if it involves funny hats.
So just before you begin the presentation, a CPACE presentation was made to our Economic Development Commission, and they voted unanimously to recommend to the Board of Selectmen that we consider implementing this for Woodbridge, and so we're following up with this presentation now.
That's great to know. Thank you, Madam First Selectwoman, and to the board as well. My name's Ben Healy. This is Marlena Harvey. Excuse me, and just so you know, we are expecting photos afterwards as well. And don't worry, we also brought enough crazy hats for everyone. So that was a hard act to follow, but I understand you have a long agenda tonight, so we'll try and be brief while still making sure that you all have a full understanding of the program. Both Marlena and I work for the state's Clean Energy Finance and Investment Authority. This is a quasi-public agency. The chair of our board is the commissioner of the Department of Energy, the Department of Economic and Community Development. The vice chair is the chair of the Commissioner of Energy and Environmental Protection. This is the new iteration, the state's green bank of the old Clean Energy Fund, which, as you know, is funded by a surcharge on electric and gas ratepayer bills, as well as proceeds from RGGI auctions. And very quickly, the broad mandate that we have as an organization is, rather than being a subsidy and a grant-driven organization to support the state's transition to cleaner, cheaper, and more reliable energy sources, meaning we take in a certain amount of money, we give it away, and we can only do those limited number of projects in any given year. Our mandate is to use those limited funds and to leverage private capital investment into that market. So everything we do, we try and get 10 times the private capital engaged so that our money goes that much further. CPACE, and I'll really be brief here, is one example of that. It stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. The essence of the mechanism is we secure low-cost financing for upgrades to the energy infrastructure. So that could be solar panels, that could be HVAC, that could be windows and insulation, any such improvement to a commercial, nonprofit, or multifamily building. The way we are able to secure that low-cost capital and therefore pass it on to business owners or other property owners in any given community across the state is by utilizing a benefit assessment lien. So essentially similar to a sewer assessment, a sidewalk improvement assessment, a business district assessment. This would be a voluntary assessment that a property owner would take on themselves, and the benefit assessment lien that would be applied would secure the investment such that we could bring in much longer term capital and lower cost. And just to say a word, the term is important because if you're doing solar, if you're doing some of these other energy improvements, the payback of these measures tends to be longer term. But if we can provide financing, take away the upfront capital barrier from the property owner and stretch the term out, we can then give them a positive cash flow opportunity to go green and be economically better off right from the start. So that's the idea of the concept. Why are we here before the town of Woodbridge? Why don't we just offer this? The state's Clean Energy Finance and Investment Authority is the administrator and the capital provider for this program. But as you know, we are not the taxing authority. We don't have, we would not send out municipal tax bills. So one by one, the legislature has charged us to bring towns into the program, to offer the opportunity to towns, is a better way of saying it, to become a CPACE eligible municipality, meaning that the town would essentially agree that when Cephia had negotiated with a business or a nonprofit in town, a financing agreement, the town would agree to place the benefit assessment lien on that property according to the agreement made between the property owner and Cephia, and that essentially when the property owner received their semi-annual, I assume it's semi-annual in Woodbridge, property tax bills, there would be a line that said, here's your property tax and here's your CPACE benefit assessment charge, and then simply remit that amount back to Cephia. At no point is the town ever standing behind the borrower. At no point is the town ever on the hook for it. And in fact, if there's any administrative costs, Cephia, we will put in the agreement that we would ask the town to enter into with us. We would cover any administrative costs that the town may have. So this is essentially a no-cost, very low work way to support property owners, commercial, industrial, nonprofit, and multifamily, to the extent any of those are exist in Woodbridge, to have the opportunity to access this capital at attractive rates with all the advantages that Cephia brings in terms of reviewing these projects, making sure the energy savings are real, and providing this financing. And the town simply acts as a pass-through of the dollars on the way back using the security mechanism of the property tax system, which is how we bring in the cheap capital. So let me stop with that. I know that was a fair amount of information and a lot of moving pieces, but the bottom line is what I'm here to ask for you, as required by the statute, would be for the town, for the Board of Selectmen to pass a resolution authorizing the chief executive of the town to enter into a municipal agreement with Cephia that would essentially lay out what I just said, and allow the town to apply these benefit assessment liens upon mutual request of the state's green bank and the property owner. And then the last thing I'll say is the reason I'm actually here tonight is because we've in fact a large nonprofit organization in Woodbridge has indicated a desire to go solar, and their contractor has come to us and said, could we use CPACE financing? And we said, yes, if the town says they're willing to play this role, we'd be happy to provide the financing. And it's a project I think we'd be very excited to do if this pathway became open. So with that, let me shut up and take questions. I realize I didn't even really refer to the packet, but I'm happy to walk through any slides. Yes?
Could you define multifamily property? Does that mean a landlord who owns multi-buildings, or just
It means a single property of 5 or more units.
Okay.
So 1 to 4 is considered
Okay,
under state law
all right.
single-family residential, but 5. So if there's any 5 or more units, yeah.
I didn't see in my packet, but I've seen some of your presentation before. These are loans typically, is it 100,000 and up for?
We try and suggest it for both for transaction cost purposes and because most property owners would not say it's worth it to put a lien on their property for a very small dollar loan. They'd rather just go and get a line of credit or whatnot from a local bank. We recommend above $150,000 for it to be worth it to come to us, with the exception being for a straight boiler. If you're doing a fuel conversion, oil to gas, or a straight boiler upgrade, or even a simple solar project where it's very simple to review and the sort of friction that comes with doing a whole building retrofit, then we'll go ahead and do it even if it's a smaller project.
So other than that, you look at plans that are typically 100,000 and up.
I think that's right.
To
And
meet
so,
the-
what I'd call medium-sized solar, a multi-unit boiler replacement, windows, that sort of level of investment.
Just so I think I understand this, and using someone in town here who's interested, right? So you would provide the fine, so the money goes directly to this nonprofit,
Correct.
right? You do all the paperwork, you put the assessment lien on and all that. So the town's a collection agency, in essence. So we bill it twice a year, collect the money, send the money to you. So that's the only impact to us is we send out a bill, we collect that money.
That's correct. We would.
And if they don't pay that,
Good question.
okay.
That's an important question. So, the town is never on the hook, either to make good on their payment, nor do we even ask the town to pursue collections. So, if they didn't pay their whole property tax, inclusive of the benefit assessment lien, we would assume the town would be interested in putting that into collection and pursuing whatever normal revenues you do. Assuming they pay their property taxes but don't pay the CPACE benefit assessment lien, or the CPACE portion of that, we would not assume, and the municipal agreement does not rely on the town to go and be our collection agent beyond that. We are, in fact, as the lien holder, would then go and enforce our interests if that came to place. I should say we have pretty thorough underwriting standards. We, as a state agency, our goal here is not to be giving folks debt that they can't handle. So it's certainly not our interest, either politically or economically, to be in that direction, and our underwriting standards are public. The other thing I should say to that extent is we also don't approve projects where the expected savings, which we thoroughly vet through a set of third-party engineers and reviews, are not expected to cover the financing costs. So what our expectation is always going to be is that these are cash flow positive investments. Even if the financing is, eating up a good portion of those savings, the SIR, as we call it, the savings to investment ratio, would be greater than 1. So we're making these owners immediately better off. And that's, it's the challenge and the opportunity associated with Connecticut's high energy prices is that we can actually do that.
So the impact to us really is on the same bill, we put a line item.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't get paid, we somehow administratively have a little bit of an impact where we have to notify you that we're not collecting this stuff.
You don't have to notify us because we'll know the dollars don't show up in our account because you'll just be essentially wiring them through, right? I mean, it'll come into the town coffers, the tax.
Then you don't have, so we don't have to do anything then.
It's
Other
a
than
fairly
send
low
out the
bit.
bill.
I would clarify, our request in general is we would send the notice of lien to the town tax, the notice of benefit assessment to the town tax collector to apply on the front end. So there is a filing that happens, but that's basically it outside of whatever. And again, we're willing to pay the administrative costs of, okay, this is somebody's time of, however many hundreds of dollars over the course of a year.
So just to clarify, you're in fact the lien holder, the town is basically the billing agency. However, if let's go to the extreme, if there's a foreclosure, that has no impact on us because it's falling into the hands of you because you're the actual 100% lien holder.
That is correct, and the CPACE lien, and again, the reason why we can attract the inexpensive capital, while it is senior to other, it primes the mortgage holder in other benefit assessments, it is subordinate to all town real property taxes, so it would never impact that. The lien also survives any foreclosure, so the amount that's ever in, that might ever be foreclosed upon would only be the small amount due in arrears at any given moment. So even if we did a large project with this nonprofit, it would never be $2 million in front of any existing mortgage holders. It would be whatever the $100,000 that is due that 6-month period that would have to be cleared.
The arrears.
Exactly, it's just arrears, which is important.
What has your experience been with, how rigidly do you enforce the lien, or you just do the collection for the money?
So it's a good question. I mean, this program is about a year old. We've done about $20 million worth of financing so far in cities that have approved it, and about 80 cities and towns at this point have now come on in across the state, mostly based on either where there was a lot of commercial property, so we targeted them, or where there were projects. We take, we think our financing agreements are rigorous, and the liens are important for our ability to bring in the private capital. We hope that our underwriting is good enough that we're not going to be in a position where we're going to need to enforce the lien other than send reminder notices anytime soon. But
Yeah, this sounds creative and terrific. I just sort of want to know what the town hall view is of any administrative burden that would be directed toward us.
It seems like a good idea, and in concept seems okay. But I think what we'd like to do is just sort of research a little with other towns, see what their experience has been, and just sort of what's involved procedurally in terms of the town and administratively what we need to do.
Sure. So we're happy to. Certainly, it would be nice if I defer in terms of the process steps that make the most sense, of course. But the board could always approve the conditional upon the town getting comfortable with it, or you can hold off on that. But we're happy to come meet with the tax collector to accept. We've paid QDS, which is generally, I don't know if that's your tax software system. So we've paid QDS to do the upgrade they need, so the towns can just implement this with no. Sorry, yes,
that was the software, right?
So they do about 75% of the state, and we've already sort of implemented the fix that they need. And then to the extent there's any administrative costs, we're happy to just say we'll build it into the agreement we would have with the town to cover it, so that this is designed to be zero burden for the town, because we really just want to offer it as an economic development opportunity that in fact you could offer to property owners and say, here's a low-cost tool to upgrade your property.
I was not aware that there was a pending potential project until this evening. Is time of the essence for that? Is there time pressure? Because we had not looked at a contract or done all our due diligence, and if timing is important, that's something we might want to consider this evening.
I would say, I assume the board meets monthly?
Yes.
I think it would be fine for you to be able to take this up at your next monthly meeting without impacting that project. I think also, to the extent that I understand it, they are considering their financing options. They have approached us to be able to see if this would be the best fit. We are not in a position of being pushers on folks. We say, if you're having trouble finding financing, as you often are, as folks often are, we would love to support you. But if you've got another way to get this deal done, that's okay. So I think they're going through that process right now.
Great. So we can look into whatever remaining questions we have.
Can I have one last question? Is there a cap? Is it a $100 million program and you've already given out 60?
So this is the beauty. This is a great question. Maybe where I should have started, because it's really the beauty of the new mandate that our organization has been given. Because we're not just taking in money and giving it away, because essentially what we do is, essentially this is almost all private money. We use a little bit of our public capital in every deal to provide security to our investors. This sort of just, this will go. This is a machine that will go until it turns out that somebody has a better mousetrap. So provides a lot of opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Very good. And should I, in terms of, I realize I didn't bring copies of the municipal agreement. I should probably send them to the town council, to you,
I'll send them to Betsy.
To Betsy?
Yep, I'll email
Okay.
Betsy.
Great. And then through Marlena and myself, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That was really an interesting presentation. The next item on the agenda is the Greater Bridgeport Regional Solid Waste Proposed Agreement, and Steve Edwards is here to walk us through it.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me to present this. Again, I am Steve Edwards. I'm the president of the Southwest Regional Recycling Committee and the president of the Interlocal Solid Waste Committee. I got those by default. Nobody else wanted it. It's not anything I won, by sure. But we are in a crossroads right now on the solid waste aspect of it. The existing contract that you're in is been in place for the better part of 25 years. Originally, Woodbridge joined in with the SWAB group, which was the Southwest Regional Solid Waste Advisory Board. You paired with CRRA, and with that organization, they were able to build the Bridgeport burn plant, which is now referred to as Wheelabrator. That burn plant functioned for 20 years. The group brought in close to 600,000 tons per year, and through that, through the financing and everything else, that plant was paid off, and it's now the property of Wheelabrator. 5 years ago, Woodbridge and the interlocal entered into a 5-year term, again with CRRA, with the intent that they would take a short-term bridge to see what the options were, what other options we had for solid waste disposal. 5 years has passed, surprisingly. I thought that was the last contract I was going to be involved in, and here I am again. But we have now looked at that contract, and we were paying at that time, when we first signed the contract, we entered into a contract with Wheelabrator through CRA for $62 a ton, and we were paying CRA $2 a ton for administrative fees. And then whatever you individually paid for trucking and transfer station administration, et cetera. That contract has now almost come to fruition. It is due July 1st. It expires June 30th, 2014. The interlocal is negotiating, and when I say the interlocal, for the most part, it is myself from the town of Westport, Ed Bowman from the town of Fairfield, and John Marsilio from the town of Trumbull. We have entered into negotiations with Wheelabrator ourselves. We felt that we could negotiate a parallel agreement with Wheelabrator without using CRA services and avoid the $2 administration fee. So we essentially took it on ourselves about 1.5 years ago to initiate the negotiations, and we've now come to a point where we've got a term sheet negotiated with Wheelabrator, and the only issue really before us is who wants to join in with the group. The way that we've negotiated is that we've got a set fee for so many tons. We've got a quoted price of $60 a ton for up to 175,000 tons. For every additional 25,000 tons, we get $1 off. So if I bring in another larger ton and I can wedge that down, I can get down to 59, 58, whatever. Right now, we feel we've got in the existing interlocal, if all the towns re-upped, we would be at 181,000 tons. If we were able to pull in a New Haven or a Stamford or one of the other towns, that would bump us up over to 200,000 tons. So right now, I've got a firm commitment of $60 a ton, and that's what I'm basically making the presentation on. That would be what we're talking on is a 10-year term with 2 5-year extensions with a 75% CPI increase each year. So these are all terms that we've worked out, as I said, over the last year. We're very comfortable with them, and we're just trying to see who else is interested. I know Woodbridge has been part of the group for the last 25 years, and again, I certainly welcome them to join the group. In order to join the group, what you have before you, I believe, is the interlocal agreement, which is the organizational mechanism that allows the group to then enter into a contract. The contract will not be with Woodbridge and Wheelabrator. The contract would be the interlocal and Wheelabrator. That way there will not be individual contracts back and forth. The town will enter into the interlocal as they have for the past 25 years. Then the interlocal will exercise a contract with Wheelabrator. Once you join into the interlocal, you would be part of the interlocal. You would not be able to exercise out. You could request exit from the interlocal, but that would be contingent upon a vote of the interlocal to release you. You want to be aware of that. That generally doesn't occur, but should you want to exit, you would petition the interlocal, and the interlocal could release you. Obviously, it would impact the interlocal. In your case, the tons aren't that significant, but if it was a Bridgeport trying to exit, then that would have impact on the other group, and we may have a couple dollars increase to allow Bridgeport out, so that in that case, it may have more of an impact. But a town right now, I believe Woodbridge is in the neighborhood of around 3,000 tons. That is not going to drive the train one way or the other, but it does give you the benefit of piggybacking on a very good price structure, which if you went out on your own, you probably would not be able to receive.
I just, if you could just let us know which towns already have, there's a list of towns here. Have they, most of them agreed to join, or what's this latest?
Right now, the ones that have exercised, Bridgeport, Easton, Fairfield, Milford, Trumbull, and Westport. Orange is in the process, Shelton and Stratford are in the process. I'm not sure which one is actually exercised or not. Nobody has actually signed the interlocal yet, because I haven't printed up the execution copy until I know who's on the letterhead. So, but the towns I just named off have gone through their administrative bodies and have approved it, but there has not been anybody yet that's actually put the old ink on the paper.
So we're currently at $68 a ton, roughly, right? So, and so this would be an $8 a ton. You can do the math. Would be $8 a ton savings. So 3,000 tons would be $24,000, right?
So essentially the same arrangement, cut out some middleman.
Just cutting out the CRA middleman, right?
And we get a price reduction.
Right. Basically.
Any other questions?
It sums it up.
Well, 3,000 tons, or 3,000 tons, doesn't, like he said, it's not marketable really anywhere.
That's what Bethany has, so I mean.
Well, maybe that's because under Bethany, you're giving notice to the town of Bridgeport.
I know.
You saw that already? Okay.
So the CRA that's getting cut out, I think you said $2 a ton, that is a done deal? It's already been decided and they are being cut out, or that was just something you're still looking to do with this?
Right now, you're still paying CRA, and
I understand.
you're paying them about, I think it's up to around $230 now. And you will continue to pay them until June 30th. The new contract will go into place on June 30th, or July 1st, and you will, right now, you receive your bills from CRRA. The only difference will be the bill will come directly to you from Wheelabrator instead of going through CRRA. So that would be the only change. The way we have it set up is that right now, I believe, if there's any problems or any issues, for the most part, you have direct relationship back and forth to Wheelabrator anyways. If you have a problem with your transfer station and trucking down to Wheelabrator, that's something you deal with independently. We just couldn't see any value added with CRA. No disrespect to CRA. I mean, we obviously needed them at the onset because it was their funding that allowed us to build the plant. But right now, there's just no value added at this point in time, and they acknowledge that.
Thank you. Any questions? Then I will entertain a motion to authorize the first selectman to execute the interlocal agreement, and I will not execute it until such time as sufficient number of towns have participated that it's appropriate to do so. Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Warren Connors to talk about wood cutting permits.
Good evening, everybody. The reason why I'm here to discuss this is I'd like the board to consider the possibility of revoking the current wood cutting permit process as it currently stands. The process began back in 1979 when the oil embargo hit. It was a way for residents to cut down the fallen trees, use that as a source of energy for heat and things like that. But over the years, we've noticed that there's very little interest involved with it, but it causes a lot of headaches, both for the police, the neighboring residents, and the department, because there's nothing to regulate what activity is actually being done there. We've had cases where there's been some, I'll call it indiscriminate cutting. The neighbors have contacted the police and myself because there was more of a timber harvest activity going on. That was resolved, but there's chainsaw activity, and then anytime it happens, the abutters are very concerned whether they're cutting town trees or whether they're cutting their trees. And so, given what I'll consider the very lack of interest, to be honest with you, to just basically revoke that policy. We provide wood to residents when we're taking trees down. Often we'll cut the wood up and leave it on the roadside. And residents have access to that wood. Obviously, if it's in front of someone's home, that property owner would have first access to the wood. But during the earlier years, you couldn't leave any wood on the side of the road. The next morning it would be gone. Now you leave it there and you go back a month later and the wood is still at the edge of the road, and we wind up cleaning it up and bringing it back for processing into mulch. So given the lack of interest, we do have people that use it, but we don't know what they're cutting. There's other issues with the insects that could be in some of this wood, and they're cutting it and using it. You know, whether there's any control mechanism in place to monitor that. So I think it would be in the best interest of the town, given the limited area that they have access to depart from the current criteria that we have.
Are there any questions for Laura?
Okay. I have two suggestions. One is we can simply vote to end the program, or alternatively, we can put a moratorium on the program and refer it to the Conservation Commission, which actually we've looked at the ordinance, and Conservation does have jurisdiction over this, and perhaps they would like to look at it. So would anyone like to make either of those motions?
The second one, right. So,
Okay, we'll put a moratorium, so we will not be continuing the program at this time, but we'll refer to Conservation for them to look at it more fully. Okay, is there a second to Susan's motion? Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Warren, before you go, without objection from this board, if there is no objection, I'd like to move item 9E up to make it 4A, because Warren will speak to those issues. So, any objection? No. Okay. So this is the award of bids for catch basin cleaning, street sweeping, and dump truck body.
I figured that we would introduce the bids, and then Warren is available for questions, if anyone had questions on either of those.
Okay. The first is bid number 2014-11 for catch basin cleaning.
So we went out to bid for catch basin cleaning, and we received 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bids. This is an example of how bidding can show you a wide range of pricing. The low bid was Janet's Sweeping and Property Care, whom we've used frequently, correct, Warren?
Yes.
Yep. At $16.16 per basin, with one of the higher bids was $64, excuse me, a basin. So you can see a wide range of pricing there. But so anyway, we recommend using Janet's Sweeping.
We used that before, and we're quite happy, right? I
Yes.
remember that coming up again and again. Okay. It turns out it's a low bid anyway, but yeah, that works.
Is there a motion to award the catch basin cleaning contract to Janet Sweeping?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next is bid 2014-12, street sweeping services.
So we went out to bid for street sweeping services and received 6 bids. And again, the low bid was to Janet Sweeping and Property Care for $240 per mile. There's a high bid is $470 per mile, so it's almost twice that amount. So we recommend using Janet Sweeping again. We've used her for that services. That's the service also.
I'll make that motion.
Thank
And I
you.
want to say street sweeping services 10 times.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor? And the next is the dump body, which appeared on some list, and we were wondering, what kind of town is this? We're getting bids for dumping bodies, but this is bid number 2014-10 for a heavy-duty dump body, sand spreader, central hydraulic, and snow plow. I have it here.
You have it, yeah, let me just take a look. So, this is part two, correct, Warren, of the bid. We had bid the first half of it, which was the actual cab and chassis part, and earlier, and we received 5 bids, and there's a memo from Warren here which indicates some of the issues surrounding the bid, but we recommend the bid to Truck Builders of Connecticut for it's actually $80,806, but the discount would be $79,593, and they are not the low bid. They are the second low bid. And I thought maybe you could just indicate a little bit about why we are not recommending the low bid.
As with all products that we purchase, we investigate not only the products that we're purchasing, but we investigate the company that's doing the actual build or installation. And mechanics actually visited the low bid vendor and looked at the product that was being offered. And both they and myself, just from looking at the literature that was provided to us, we felt that there were some structural questions as to the quality of what we were purchasing as compared to past purchases or to what options were available to us. And based on that, plus the quality control process that's used by the vendor itself, there were some questions surrounding that company, and we felt for the difference in the product that was being offered, that we're going to have a product that's going to withstand, our activities and give the best longevity to the truck, and maintains the value and the performance of the vehicle for the life that we have to use it. And based on that, we felt that the second low bid was the vendor that would provide all of that to us. They didn't offer the plow that we would like. Another vendor offered that, but their bid was, substantially higher. So we talked to the vendor, the second low vendor, and he could get that plow for us in lieu of what was being offered in the initial bid. There was a slight upcharge associated with that, but we still feel that that's the best package that we could put together in the town's interest.
Bid 2014-10 to Truck Builders of Connecticut.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions?
Just, we're going to take advantage of the 10-day discount.
Yes, absolutely.
That's my question, yeah.
We always do, especially in this interest rate environment.
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Warren.
Thank you.
Okay, we are back on track even with our fire drill. So,
Good.
yes. It's now time for public comment. Is there anyone who'd like to comment? Cheryl?
Good evening. Hi there. Cheryl Lipson. After I get done reading this, I'd like to give it to Jerry, so it's part of, thank you. I was invited to meet with the Ordinance Committee in November 2013 to discuss the creation of a cat ordinance for district animal control. At the conclusion of the meeting, the committee agreed to have town council make the necessary calls to get sufficient information to present to the Ordinance Committee and then hopefully to the Board of Selectmen. I offered to assist in this information gathering process and gave them the name of a person the committee might contact for additional information. I have called the town, I have called the town several times since that meeting to get an update on when this report was to be presented, and on each occasion I was told that the report had not been completed. I asked Mr. Genovese if the town was avoiding this issue because they did not want to have a cat ordinance. He could not give me a direct answer. I would like a direct answer. According to First Select Person Skeletor, the town has been paying Miss Lombardi, an animal control officer, since the beginning of June 2013, when she was put on paid administrative leave regarding allegations made against her. This amounts to approximately $50,000 in salary and benefits, and the way I figured this out was it was 10/12 of the $60K that Ellen had mentioned to me when we spoke. So this 10/12 of the $60K, the amount Ms. Skeletor had stated Ms. Lombardi was being compensated annually. The town is also paying a per diem officer as well as another officer to man the town shelter. Per the financial statements that I received through February, the shelter is over budget by almost $19,000 for part-time employees and overtime, which amounts to approximately 179% of the approved budget. In addition, Ms. Lombardi has been removed from her position. Since she has been removed, donations to the facility have dropped by more than 20%. This deficit will now have to be made up by the town. The town stated that it would be doing its own internal investigation regarding the charges lodged against Ms. Lombardi. To date, it is my understanding that no investigation has been done. That being the case, it seems appropriate that I hope that's not my bag.
It is.
It's okay, they'll go away. That being the case, it seems appropriate that the discharged officer should be allowed back at the facility until the case is decided in a court situation. This would save the town money, create goodwill amongst residents who feel the charges against the officer are bogus and have been fabricated to discredit her, and assure residents that the animals coming into the facility were being given the care they deserve. The town does not have to wait for the state hearing, at least this is what I have been advised, does not have to wait for the state hearing to return the officer to her position as long as she has not been deemed a threat to the community. It is a matter of being innocent until proven guilty. Lastly, it is my understanding that a monthly report must be filed with the town from District Animal Control, and I'm wondering why it's not on the agenda this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Good evening. My name is Laura Torrance from Vernon Court, and I would like to thank everyone, Madam Chair and Tony, for responding promptly and working really hard. I do believe that you are trying to resolve this issue and in a fair way to the town and also to the animals and the residents. Since the last meeting, I've been at Animal Control probably 6 days a week, volunteering, attempting to wash dogs, which I like to do, and I hear that as of today, the water situation has been resolved, at least for now. That's an issue that I think will have to be looked at again in the future when it breaks, because apparently it does break often. I do understand that we were promised, or the shelter was promised, that as of this year, there would be some sort of permanent coverings for the outdoor runs, which we're going to be working on, I guess, next month. But as it starts to get warmer, the animals are going to need something. If it's not going to be permanent, then temporary. And it seems as though the current staff, which is, I know, somewhat temporary until you resolve the issues with Karen, seem ineffective or incapable of communicating to the town, because I know that Kathy Piccarello and Tony are working really hard to make things as good as possible down there under the circumstances, but I really do believe that they are not communicating the needs of the shelter for whatever the reason, I don't know. But that we do have a lot of short-term things that need resolving. It's spring, we already had kittens down there, and I will say that not a week goes by where someone isn't asking about Karen's return. And last Saturday, we had a young family come in who were visiting from out of town who came down to see the animals. They were visiting family and hadn't been there and brought a young little girl with them. So it's disappointing for people to come and find it a mess, and also that it's just full of pit bulls and big dogs and not much to see. And so we hope we have a lot of very enthusiastic volunteers that want to get rolling, and I know you're working hard to resolve that. And I just want to read one short thing, and I'd like to give it to Mrs. Shaw when I'm through. Based on the Freedom of Information request made to the state of Connecticut, the Department of Agriculture, and the Animal Control Division, the only animal control officer in the state of Connecticut in the history of the Animal Population Voucher Program to be arrested for allegations of misuse for the AP-CP vouchers is Karen Lombardi. The state does not pursue disciplinary action for animal control officers. Allegations of wrongdoing are reported by the state to the municipal ACO's appointing authority, where complaints are investigated and disciplined when necessary at the town level. The State of Connecticut Investigation Report, case number 2013-065, produced by State Animal Control Officer Barbara Goodyjohn at the request of the Woodbridge Police Department, names both Paul Needleman and Karen Lombardi as suspects in her investigation. ACO Lombardi was misquoted in the ACO Goodyjohn's document, a misquote that was reported both to State Animal Control Officer Dean Gates and Attorney Willie Dow. The only animal control officer, Karen Lombardi, that she's a valued and longtime resident and town employee with a pristine record, and was inappropriately disciplined at the hands of the Woodbridge Police for alleged insufficiencies in the form of a warrant for her arrest for a felony charge of second-degree larceny. Does no one else see that this could be discriminatory or an abuse of power? And again, when the request through the Freedom of Information was made for any investigation reports or records of disciplinary action that were generated by the State Animal Control Officer Barbara Goodyjohn for a period from January 1st, 2010 through September 2015, or September 15th, 2013, that no other such reports were produced for any of the ACOs in her covered area. A point, in fact, that several years ago, a now retired State Animal Control Officer went to the town of Windsor Locks as a result of complaints that the town animal control officer in her jurisdiction was giving out AP-CP vouchers for free to whoever wanted one. The extent of the town's disciplinary action we're very sorry, and he won't do it again. So that's all I'd like to say. I thank you for your attention, and again, I do thank you because I know you're really working hard to resolve this.
Thank you. Cheryl and Laura very much. I know you're very conscientious and concerned, and I assure you we are as well, and looking at the situation. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other public comment?
Kathy Wick, I live on Rimmon Road. I was hoping to see some mention of the Country Club of Woodbridge on tonight's agenda. In my opinion, it's one of the most important issues that the town is facing. Other than the pool rates, it looks like it's not going to be discussed tonight. I do have a few questions relating to the Country Club that I'd like to raise. The first is about the current oversight of operations at the club. Of course, I understand that the town has capped its losses for the year, but we do still own the property, and we do still have a stake in that it's managed properly. I looked at the town website, and it appears that the Country Club of Woodbridge Commission hasn't met since January. I think it's important that that commission continue to oversee the management company and make sure that they're doing exactly what they should do, because in my opinion, the current contract situation incentivizes them to wring as much cash out of the place in the short term as they possibly can. And I think it's important that we make sure that they're taking good care of the property. Secondly, many people have been asking me, where are we with the future of the country club? As I'm sure you all know, it's been 7 weeks to the day since we all attended a meeting over at the Center Gym, February 19th, where Malone and McBroom presented their proposal for the future of the country club. About 200 people showed up, and 20 or 25 came to the microphone, and no one spoke in support of the Malone-McBroom proposal. Many different issues were raised, many questions were raised. I'd like to suggest that based on the resounding thud with which that proposal landed that night, there be some course correction, some revision to the plans going forward. And I look forward to knowing what those might be.
Any other public comment? Harriet?
Stay with us. My name is Harriet Cooper, and I live at 189 Ford Road. I'd just like to bring a positive view as to what's happening in the town. I'm a longstanding resident of Woodbridge and a realtor in the town for a long time. I'd like to thank Ellen Scalatar and the Board of Selectmen for the open and inclusive governance process she's championed in Woodbridge. It's enabled us to be more informed and engaged town citizens. One area that I would like to note especially this evening is the Beecher Road School renovation project. As a realtor, I know how important our schools are in attracting young families to Woodbridge. They move here for many reasons, but often our schools are cited as the #1 reason. Town residents had ample opportunity to learn about the Beecher Road School renovation project. In addition to the usual meetings, Ellen scheduled an informational meeting to which every household received an invitation. I believe this extra effort in informing citizens and providing a chance to ask questions was key in the success of the referendum approving the school project. Like many of my friends and colleagues, I am very appreciative for the increased communication and openness of the town hall, and that also goes for the work that's being done on the Woodbridge Country Club. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay. Next, our Assistant Administrative Officer, Betsy Yagla, is going to introduce the Town of Woodbridge Facebook page. Drum roll, please.
So I created a Facebook page for the town of Woodbridge. It went live earlier today. So if you have access to Facebook, if you have a Facebook account, you can go online to facebook.com/WoodbridgeCT and you can like us. To do that, you would click over here on the like button and you can be our 5th fan. Just a very quick Facebook primer for folks who might not be very familiar with it. There's 2 types of accounts that you can have on Facebook. You can be a person, and if you're a person, you have reciprocal relationships. If I ask to be your friend, you have to agree to be my friend, and we have a 2-way relationship. For things, and the town is a thing, it's a one-way thing. The town cannot reach out to you. You decide to like the town. And if you like the town, then the information below here will end up in your Facebook news feed. So we'll be posting things like the pool is going to be opening soon. Pool rates are on the website. The town has a blog. There's all sorts of news that we'll be posting on here, photos, updates, fun events coming up in the future that people can participate in. The idea is we want to highlight the things that the town government is doing, but also great things going on in the community. We really want this to be a community site. Does anybody have any questions?
Are you going to put the fire alarm, the fire drill that we had today on there?
Should I?
It's the excitement of the day. I mean, you know, it's what we do.
One thing that I do think is important for people to know, if you go up here under the About section, gives you a quick synopsis of what Woodbridge and this page is about, and asking everybody to please be nice and behave. It's a public page, so we want to make sure all the comments are appropriate. I will be the one posting things onto the page. Once I post something on the page, people who like the page can comment on it. When someone comments on the page, I get a text notification immediately, so I will see what people are writing. So if anything is wildly off topic or very inappropriate, it will be removed.
Betsy, I have a question.
Yeah.
When I was trying to like the town of Woodbridge, and you were helping me, but I put in Woodbridge, Connecticut, and it went to something like a Wikipedia article. I couldn't get here right away.
So you would type in, there's a search bar in Facebook at the top here. You would type in Woodbridge CT.
And it should
and it
come
should
here.
pop up.
Okay.
And if you have troubles with that, you can go up to the bar up here where you would enter the Facebook page that you want to go to. You can just type in facebook.com/Woodbridge CT, and that'll take you to the town's page.
I actually do have a serious question.
Yeah.
So, I have the Woodbridge app on my cell phone.
Okay.
And it's not always informative about when the meetings are happening and all this kind of stuff. Are you going to have the calendar up here for all public meetings that we have, or is that not going to be?
You know, I'm not sure if that's something that I could link to or not. I can look into it, but I don't know if I have that ability.
The only reason I mention that is I happen to be on the JCC Facebook page. Don't ask why. And I was surprised at how informative it was about the JCC calendar.
Okay.
So I wondered if there was that possibility.
That's a good thing to look into. The other thing I could do, you know, there are tons of meetings going on.
Right.
So I could be entering meetings as posts, but that could easily snowball
as a
out.
link to the town website. Can you do that?
I would have to enter that in every time. Do you know what I mean? Right now I would have to put in a link to the town website. It wouldn't be a permanent thing. Although if you went to the About section where we just were, there is a link to the town website there.
Oh, okay.
So one thing is we can look at the JCC and see how they do it, but also on Betsy's list is also looking at our website to make that more up to date and more user friendly. Although I believe, Tony, the phone app is different from.
So the phone app is an upgrade that we haven't done yet. There's an upgrade to the phone app that can make it more user friendly.
Okay.
It's just been a matter of finance.
Just exhausted my knowledge of social media. Okay.
I'm typing in Woodbridge CT, I can't.
It's not coming up.
For the 4 to change to 5 and nothing's happening. That was your job.
How about if we all just go like
Get on there
this?
and do this.
Woodbridge Social.
This looks wonderful, by the way. Thank you, Betsy.
That's what
It's really.
Woodbridge Bethany Residence Forum.
It's not showing up? Okay.
What was the backslash? Where was that?
/Woodbridge CT.
Well, that's
Facebook.
Yeah, you meant on the site. Okay.
It's not going to come from Facebook.
Getting back, and I'm not getting it either, but the question I had, and I spoke to you briefly about this before, was when someone goes on and may ask a question, I'm assuming that if it's a factual question, needs an answer, like what time is the meeting, or where is the meeting held, or what time is this town hall open, that's something you'll handle. And if it's something that may be more general or more, it'll go to the first selectman, and if she deems it appropriate to answer, or she'll.
Yeah, and I deal with a lot of resident concerns, and same thing. When it's something that's very simple to answer, I can answer it right away. When it's more complicated, I ask Ellen or Tony. Same sort of issue. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Oh, it looks wonderful.
We'll simplify becoming a friend so everybody out there can
You're all
be
right.
friends.
Thank you very much.
I'm trying to do this. I don't know what I'm doing.
Quick before it's
Thank you.
over. Thanks, Betsy. The next item is with respect to the UI tree cutting program. There is legislation pending in Hartford that proposes making changes to the tree cutting authority and program, and there's also a docket in Pura that they're reviewing it as well. And we've been talking about having UI come back to do a town presentation, and we were waiting to see about those outstanding issues being resolved. However, it looks like UI may be moving ahead before they're resolved. So Betsy's been looking into being sure we schedule something so people can hear from UI. Betsy, I was trying to give you time to sit down.
So we have scheduled a meeting to happen on Thursday, May 15th, 7 p.m. at the Center Gym, and staff from UI will come and explain what they're tasked with doing, what their plan is, and they'll be taking questions from folks. But Pura has, the agency that regulates the utilities, has not come up with a response to the submitted plan, and obviously the legislature is still in session. They're considering a bill that could affect the way the tree trimming is implemented. But I do have a draft plan from UI, and they are tentatively planning on starting tree trimming in Woodbridge in July. So we wanted to get this meeting scheduled for May to let everybody understand what is going to be happening and when.
So we're not obligated to do this, we're trying to reach out
Exactly.
to UI to get them to offer a more explanation to residents.
Exactly,
Oh,
so that
perfect.
before UI shows up on your doorstep in July, you understand what's going on and what your rights are.
Oh, good. Very good. And May 15th, you said?
Yeah.
Thanks, Betsy.
May 15, 7 p.m. at the Center Gym.
We are now at agenda item number 7, and this is naming the Public Works Garage. Beth Hiller and others have made the suggestion that we name the Public Works Garage for Ed Sheehy. And the Public Works Garage Building Committee also took up this issue and voted unanimously that they were in support of it. They actually reported that at our last board meeting. So I'd like to ask the board for a motion to approve naming the building for Ed, and then I would ask Beth to work with the building committee to proceed with that. I will mention that I spoke with Ellie about this, and she was very touched and moved by it and fully in support. So Beth, would you like to make the motion?
Make that motion.
Second. Thank you. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Happy to do it, thank you.
Thank you,
It's
Beth.
an honor, thank
Very
you.
nice.
Okay, number 8 is resolutions and authorizations. Do you want to speak to these, Tony?
Sure. The first is a grant that we apply for every year, which is for the town clerk's office, and it's for historic document preservation. She has a program where she's systematically restoring all of our documents down in the town clerk's office, doing a very nice job of it, actually. It's quite fascinating to see some of the older documents. There's a little description of the process, the project in here, and this is a state grant to help with that process.
Is there a motion to approve the town clerk's applying for the targeted grant?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Stephanie. She
She does a great job,
Yeah,
yep.
no, she's great.
Very nice, yep.
Elderly and disabled
Yeah,
transit?
elderly and disabled transit. This is, again, something we've done for the past several years, and it's what the town does is the grant assignment, which we would get from the state to the Greater New Haven Transit District. And that allows us to provide a regional rides program to our residents and a greater access to their services. And so and I believe it's recommended by the Human Services. But this is something that's done, that we do every year. And there's some statistics here, which the grant funding has provided for on the second page, which is dialysis and medical trips and that sort of thing. So.
Is there a motion to authorize the first selectman to execute the MOU with respect to elderly and disabled transit? Thank you.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All
Just
those-
real quick,
oh,
I'm not
yep.
that familiar with it. but
Sure.
We do it every year.
Mhm.
So it's grant money.
Correct.
Doesn't cost us anything.
Right.
It's just a program.
We assign it to Greater New Haven, so we can get access to that service. As opposed to us using it for ourselves, we wouldn't be able to provide
Creating a
that,
service.
right. We wouldn't be able to supplement our service enough to get the additional items that they provide, essentially.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next is a series of required state documents that we also execute every year in order to be eligible for state grants. Is that
Right,
Tony?
that's correct, and we actually did these, we had to put your,
Yes.
in October, I think, where we had to put your name on these documents. But this is our annual adoption of these, which were required for various state grants that we apply for. So we like to do it every year, so that if a grant opportunity comes up, it's already taken care of.
Is
And-
there?
And
oh,
just
sorry.
want me to go through, just,
Do you want to say which they are?
yeah, I'll just
Everybody has
name them.
but-
Fair housing resolution and a policy, ADA policy, American Disabilities Act, Title VI, affirmative action, and a grievance procedures for those.
Is there a motion to adopt?
I'll
the
make the
document?
motion that we approve all these.
Thank you.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, Tony, Administrative Officer's report.
Okay?
And Finance Director's report.
Sure.
You need
Our,
a lot of finance.
I do, you're right. So we have our report through March of 2014. It's our first 3 quarters of the year. We're just about on budget, about a slight surplus of about $7,000. That leaves us at 9.5% of our budget. We have a tax surplus projected this year of about $67,000. We have an intergovernmental revenue surplus of about $140,000, most of which is town road aid, which we did not budget for last year, this current year, of that additional $120,000. Department revenues are projected shortfall of $730,000, most of which is $788 of that is from a golf revenue shortfall, which we've discussed in the past. And another revenue note is interest income is about $20,000 shortfall from budget. On expenditures, the Country Club of Woodbridge is projected to experience a surplus of $365,000, again due to the we discussed previously the renegotiation of the Billy Casper golf contract. The center building will experience a surplus of about $15,000, largely due to natural gas savings, which was significant considering the budget is, with oil budget was maybe $45,000, $50,000. So that's a significant savings. Police officer overtime is about $57,000 over budget at the moment, largely due to a shortage in personnel. We monitor this closely with the chief and the deputy chief, and at this point we believe there's a surplus in wages to assist that will hopefully cover this shortfall. So at this point we don't think it'll be necessary to bring funds in from outside their budget, because when you have a shortage in personnel you're not paying wages. So when you're not paying wages you sometimes have costs in overtime. So that is essentially the issue there. We have a reduced tonnage on recycling and municipal solid waste. We have a surplus of about $55,000 in this department. As indicated earlier, we're at about 3,000 tons, and I think we were budgeting a little more than that this year. So it was a little lower than we had anticipated. And finally, in employee benefits, we have a surplus of $65,000, mostly in healthcare. And that's our insurance rates came in lower than we had budgeted for, which was good news last year. And also, we had some coverage types that went in our favor. So those are the main highlights for the financials.
Any questions for Tony? Okay. Refunds?
There's a refund of property taxes in the amount of $3,675.60.
Is there a motion to approve the refund of property taxes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Funding requests.
Yeah, there are 2 funding requests.
The first is line item transfer number 1314-23 in the amount of $3,000.
This is a transfer, the line item transfer from bulky waste to recycling. It's within the transfer station department to supply some additional recycling receptacles throughout the town's ball fields and parks, which, working with Adam Parsons, we believe is an excellent idea and would be very beneficial.
Motion to approve. Thank you.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Any
I have
questions?
a question. The tops are just, we're going to use tops, lids to them, or? In Cindy's memo.
Right.
Yeah, just lids?
Correct. Some
Not
of
the
them are-
barrels, okay.
Some are lids, some are
Gotcha.
bins themselves.
Okay, good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All those in favor? Aye. Next is line item transfer 1314-24, also in the amount of $3,000.
And this is a transfer, a revenue transfer to transfer $3,000, which was generously donated by the Bethwood Baseball League, which they do every year, and it's very helpful for us, to provide for clay, safety improvements, overtime, and other items for mainly for league tournaments that the Bethwood Baseball League is involved in. And so this transfers that $3,000 into Adam's department for those purposes.
Is there a motion to approve this transfer? Second. Any questions or comments?
Just to acknowledge the volunteer efforts of those involved with that group, and then this donation is icing on that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next item is the pool rates for the Country Club of Woodbridge. Just as by way of background, there was some confusion and about the junior membership, right? We did actually approve a junior membership for the pool at the last meeting, and we had intended to discuss that just to be sure everybody was aware of it. And we wanted Tony to have a chance to check with our insurance
Which we
company
did, yeah.
that it was all right to have junior members, not part of a family membership. So do you want to speak to that, Tony?
Yeah, and the main issue there was, of course, that we provide lifeguards, and that from that perspective, that there was no additional concern about that. Just that, as long as the staff was comfortable with having juniors on, without supervision, and Anthony Taddy seems to be okay with that.
What's a
in terms of-
junior? 15 to 18?
I think it's above.
Well, hang on a second.
I just know-
What's a junior?
It says it.
Hang on.
Does
What's
it
a
say it on
junior?
there? It says it on there, right?
13 to
Yeah,
19 years
13 to
old.
19.
13 to 19.
Okay.
Young. It's 13 to 19.
It was on one from last month. Yeah.
So,
13 to 19?
yes.
Yeah.
We've also learned that there are junior golf memberships as well, and once you're a junior golf member, you have access to the locker room, so it's already in motion. And the Recreation Commission had recommended this. Again, we did approve it, but we hadn't really focused on it. I wanted everyone to be aware of that and make sure you're all comfortable with it. Okay, everybody's good with it? Great, thank you. Okay, you have a couple of other
I
things,
do have a
Tony.
couple of others, yes. First is that we are applying for a steep grant, $500,000, for the renovations for paving and sidewalk and lighting and renovations to the Beecher School. These are not part of the project, but these are items we discussed in the budget process. So we are doing that, and so I just wanted to make sure you all were on board with that, and you actually have to sign that application. So
So
probably
do I
a
need
motion would be
authorization?
helpful, yeah.
Okay, is there a motion to authorize the first selectman to sign the application for the steep grant for the Beach Road School improvements?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Any
And this
questions?
is for
It's
South.
there'll be a combination, but most, yeah, it would be for, a lot of it's for South, where there's some sidewalk, and there's no matching part of the town. There's no, it's just, and we've received steep grants before for a number of projects.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I do have, it was mentioned earlier, I actually do have it was a little late, and I apologize for that, but I do have an animal control report for March.
Thank you.
Okay. as was indicated earlier, we do have a number of issues that we are working on with the facility, and we're doing the best we can with that facility, and including the water and a number of other issues, and we're working hard to try to resolve those. We had 60 calls in the last month of March, 18 in Bethany, 22 in Derby, and 20 in Woodbridge. There's currently 8 cats, 8 dogs at the shelter, and a rabbit. Of course, this is probably when the report was done. I'm sure it's changed since then. Right, I've had a feeling that was the case. There's a log of 132 people had visited, and 275 phone calls. At least that was their estimate of number of phone calls. Concerning the budget, I just wanted to touch on that. We are reaching a point in the budget where it's not going to be able to sustain itself, so next month we will have to review that. We would have to review that as a board to make some decisions on transferring funds in to cover expenses. So until this point, the budget, it's a fund, so the funds had enough money to sustain the operation.
So are you contributing that basically to the extra?
It's payroll related, correct. It's all payroll related.
You had mentioned before some facility issues. I know
Right.
there was a water issue.
There's water issue, right.
Anything else?
There's the temporary covering, which was mentioned. So we do have to provide covering outside. And so we did it on a temporary basis because to put a permanent structure, I think requires some just make sure that it's properly done with snow load and wind and all these other issues. So we have to address that issue. That's another one.
You know, as an animal lover, I'm all for this animal control facility, but it seems to be an issue that we keep talking about. First of all, we service 3 towns, so we pick up a half, and then 2 other towns pick up a quarter of the expense. That's one issue. We have this animal control officer issue that's, so we're paying salaries in addition to the salary we're paying for her. Now we're being told that we're going to go over budget. To me, this is starting to turn into something that's really a financial and operational issue that I think we need to talk about globally and start to understand really how and why we're operating this the way we do. That's just my 2 cents. I mean, I think we really have to look at this.
I agree with you, Joe. And, when the animal control officer was arrested for the second time, we were advised that the best process is to put her on paid administrative leave. And that's what we did. We also expected that because it was in the criminal courts, these are criminal cases, that they would be speedily resolved. And that has not been the case. And we are trying to explore our options at this time. I think as everyone understands, given that they're pending criminal cases and personnel matters, it's not something we can talk about. But I think the circumstance has really changed with the length of time this is taking, and we are trying to see what's available to do that. We've also talked about possibly having other towns join our animal control district, which would be a big benefit, but clearly we have to resolve our structural and operational issues. But definitely they are getting to the point we have to make some decisions about it. Absolutely.
I have one question then. Just go back to the temporary, it was a tarp basically that was above the outside.
Right, that's correct.
And I happened to be there when I was there and you were there.
We were there.
We saw a dog rip the tarp.
Right.
So is that the hope, since putting a more permanent structure involves more than basically we're looking to do at the second, is the hope that there'll be a new similar type tarping so that there's at least shade and shelter?
I know there has to be shade and shelter, so we're looking to find out
What
what the best
options
option
those-
is for that, right?
Maybe a harsh plastic.
Right, I'm not sure exactly what the
But
best
that-
option is,
that
but
is
we
what
do
we're
have to
talking about, where
provide
that
that.
tarp was
Yeah,
and was being
that's correct, right,
reconstructed.
right.
The tarp, we're talking about the outside runs on the back of
Right.
the facility?
Right.
So you're anticipating this will be an item next month with further,
Funding piece, definitely.
okay, and
Yes.
upgrades
So that'll
and
be
other,
more-
we have a lot of things to talk about, okay.
Optimistically, we'll have
Okay,
a more complete
Complete
report.
report.
with
Okay, that would be
some
great. Okay.
progress next month.
okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
The last item that I have to discuss is something very recent, and there's a memo. Did you hand out that memo? You have it there? Okay. This just happened within the last few days. We were applying for a general wastewater permit for the firehouse oil water separator, and have noticed that during that permit process, there was what appears to be part of that process is to, I've seen this already here. Part of that process is to evaluate levels in the tank, and the level seems to be going down slightly in the oil water separator portion, not the holding tank, which indicates a very small leak. So to the extent what the extent of that leak is, we do not know. It could be a simple, and how long it's been leaking, we don't know. It could be a week, could be a month. So we have to investigate that and find out the source and find out how long has been leaking, and we will get back to you on that.
Tony,
It's
this
in
is
its
the new
infancy.
firehouse, correct?
Correct,
Because
the
I
new
know there's an oil
firehouse.
water separator with the
Right,
old as
the
well,
new
but,
firehouse,
yeah,
correct.
okay.
So
Oh
it could-
dear.
It could be minor, it could not be. We have, the DEP has been notified, and our LEP, which is Joe Sanavasi, who we actually used for this project in the back of Town Hall, is our LEP on the project, and we're currently scheduling the excavation around the tank to figure out exactly the extent of it and where the leak is.
Let us pray.
Exactly.
So just finally get rid of those wells, right? We're almost done with the well testing.
Well, that was gas leak, that's totally.
Okay, all right, so this will be.
This is,
Okay,
it's
good to
from the
know.
oil water separator, so we don't know.
Right.
Right.
Reading this second paragraph on this page, pretty clear language here. But what is unclear is what they mean by immediate, immediate and expeditious manner, that this is past, or they deem it unacceptable. So do we have a feel for what kind of time we have to figure this out?
We're doing it on all under proper guidelines. We've capped the drain, so you can't use the separator. And I think next week, we have someone coming in and investigating it. We'll get the soil tested.
You notified DEP.
Notify DEP.
So they know what
Right.
the-
So what the LEP, which is Joe Sanavasi, serves as DEP's agent in this matter. So he's essentially working as DEP's agent, and so we haven't had him early, and as a matter of fact, he was part of the process that discovered it. So everything's going well so far in terms of process, and we hope to have it resolved soon.
Any other questions? Okay.
Sounds like you're dealing with it.